So we are here with the voice of the Diamond Band, Mr. David Payne.
I'm happy to be here.
Let's just jump right into it. So first, if you can just say who you are and just tell us a bit about yourself, how you ended up here.
Sure. My name is David Payne from the class of 1985 here at Temple University. And my first time as announcer, I was actually still a student. My junior year was when I found out that a student could be the announcer because one of my colleagues at the college radio station, WRTI, was the announcer in the 1983 season. And I came to him and I said, because I knew he was graduating, so I said, I would love to succeed you. How would I go about doing it? And he told me who to talk to and who to ask. And so at the beginning of my senior year, which was the fall of 1984, I became the announcer. Back then, this was long before Lincoln Financial Field, for those who remember Veterans Stadium, which is where both the Phillies and the Eagles played. And I always thought it was neat that the Temple Owls got to play football in the same stadium as an NFL team. And as a student, I would come to a lot of games and hang out with the band. So I got to know many of the band members and the directors at the time. So when I came to ask if I could be the announcer, they were already familiar with me. They knew who I was. They had never heard me announce, so that was something to look forward to. I was a broadcasting major. I've done news on the radio. That's been what I've been doing for most of my post-college career. So to have this opportunity, which is something a little different from radio, to announce over a public address system is something I've always enjoyed doing, and I've never looked back.
What's a favorite memory you have of the Diamond Band? Because as you so kindly told us earlier, you've been to 5 bowl games. You've had a lot of experience with us. So what are some standout memories you have?
Well, I think that one of the things that comes to mind right away, and it goes back to that very first game, that very first home game. It was in October of 1984. It was an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous fall day here in the city. And during that time, I actually got to go up to the press level where fans don't get to go to, and that's where the announcer's booth was. And first of all, I got to meet, and this is another broadcast legend in Philadelphia, a man named Dave Zinkoff, who, for those who either remember Temple or the 76ers, he was their PA announcer for decades. And so not only did I get to meet him, I got to sit next to him, and I got to talk with him. But when the band marched out, first of all, and it was in a totally different configuration than it is now.
Where was this?
This was at Veterans Stadium.
Veterans Stadium. Okay.
So I'm looking for the band. They all marched out of the tunnel at the time. They actually marched in formation as opposed to how we get on the field. Now we had a little more time for pregame. So, and the color guard was in the lead. So you would look at the tunnel and you would see the flags just blowing in the wind. And that just gave you a sense of anticipation. And the band marches out, and the very first time I asked the crowd to stand for the national anthem, and they all stood. It just, I mean, maybe this isn't something that normal people, remember or react to. Yeah. But I can remember a big smile on my face, because I asked people to stand and they stood.
This pregame, we're going to be giving a lovely memory, a little homage to Joanne Epps, who sadly passed away. Do you have any wonderful memories with Joanne, or anything you would possibly like to share, just in the idea that we're
ironically, I just met her this season. I knew who she was. I talked with members of the band's leadership about her, because I'm always interested in what the president of Temple University thinks of the band. And I've met several past university presidents, including a man named Peter Leocoris, by the way, who became president when I was a student here. People who know the Leocoris Center where the basketball team plays. I actually got to meet Dr. Leocoris, wonderful man. And I've got to meet most of the other presidents who succeeded him. I met Dr. Epps during the very first game this season, and it was just a passing. I just introduced myself to her, said it was nice to meet her, and I hope that she enjoyed the band's performance this season. And it just broke my heart when I learned that she had passed away. And the song actually that the band is playing, It's Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday, made famous by Boyz II Men, but it actually dates back to the 1970s, to when I was in high school. and it was. I mean, if you think of songs played during memorial services, during very moving moments, it is an incredibly appropriate song.
With Temple being in such a unique situation, how do you think that impacts like the fan experience, like seeing the band go into the game when you have an actual person saying, here's the band, here's what they're doing?
Well, I never really, to be perfectly honest, and this is not false modesty, I'm very honest when I say this, I hadn't always known that people knew who I was. They'd heard my voice. They cheer when the band comes on, and it is all about the band. I mean, seeing the band perform and the wonderful, I mean, the amount of talent is just immense, and watching and listening to the crowd react to whenever the band performs, I think is the best part of it. But when I walk, even when I'm on campus, but usually on game day when I'm going through either the stadium or going through the tailgates, and people, not only do they know who I am, they know my name. And that will never get old. Yeah, it really makes me happy that, and as you said, because not a lot of bands, when we are the visiting band in other cities.
You spoke at Rutgers too.
Exactly, and I introduce myself to the people and most of the time it is the PA booth. I don't need to do it on the field like I do here, and I introduce myself. Most of the time, the PA announcer is usually either the stadium announcer or someone who is a director and assistant director of the band. When I introduce myself as the announcer, sometimes I have to explain to them what that is. So, and I always assume that this is something that other bands do, and it's very, very few college bands have an announcer. So I do feel very lucky.
So one of the things that I love about this marching band is the relationships that you can build. Just a quick question about if there are any relationships you have crafted, you have made in your time in the marching band that you think are going to last till the end of your life?
Two things have happened. First of all, the fact that even when students, when they move on, when they graduate and they start their careers and start their families, and when they come back for homecoming, and people whom I've known when they were students, and we're still friends and we're still in touch, that means a great deal to me. I have had the privilege of performing 2 marriages of Diamond Band alumni over the last decade.
Like officiating?
Yes, yeah. I've officiated. I'm not a member of the clergy, so officiant is the title. And these are both couples who met as members of the band. And they both came to me and they said, we love what you do and we would like you to do it for us. And that means more to me than I can say.
Well, I have one more question. Do you have any moments where you really used, your voice to your advantage during a halftime show?
Well, it happened to be Halloween night of 2015 when Temple played Notre Dame. I mean, the game itself was one of the most memorable. I mean, for anybody who was here, it was nationally televised. It just happened to be a time we were coming into that game unbeaten and nationally ranked for the first time in quite a while. And ESPN's Game Day Live came to Philadelphia that day. Lincoln Financial Field was sold out for the second time that season, by the way, because we played and beat Penn State that year, so we were already on a high. We had a ghost or mystery theme to the show, and the very first thing I got to do was, because usually I will just announce the music or if there's a theme for the show. That night, I had to think of something. I don't know what the word is, spooky or mystical or, scary, if you will, to say. So the first thing I did was I let out a laugh that even surprised me, and there's a Shakespeare quote, "Something wicked this week," which I thought was incredibly appropriate for the night. It also ended with a mashup of Time Warp from Rocky Horror and Thriller by Michael Jackson. So the very end of that number, for those included a mashup of Time Warp from Rocky Horror and Michael Jackson's Thriller. And for those who remember Thriller, that ended with a recitation by the wonderful Vincent Price, whose voice I could never imitate.
Yeah.
But I got to say the last part of
my
that,
God.
of that recitation,
Awesome.
along with the laugh.
That's
So,
awesome.
anytime I can kind of, deviate from what I normally do, it makes it fun for me, and I sure hope it makes it fun for the audience.
In front of almost 70,000 people, that must have been something.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I must say, when I announce the band during pregame, I mean, the cheer is usually pretty enthusiastic, but that night, and you really can't help, getting excited yourself.
Yeah.
You try to keep it together, but when you know that you're in that atmosphere and you know that the cheer is going to be deafening, you try to make it as much, as exciting as you can.
Well, David, I'm sure I can speak for everyone when I say let's hope that happens again someday.
Thank
Thank you
you
so much for talking to us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.